okay, go. And then when they finish recording, it's okay, bye. I mean, elapsed time's like 33 minutes to be on the show.
I'll tell a little story right now then. Here's a little story I want to tell you about a fella named Scott Johnson. I once, that's a bad beginning. So I do Current Geek with Scott. And when we started doing Current Geek independently, he was controlling the stream. So when we were done, he would say, thanks to the guests, have a great weekend, and then just hang up. And at first I was like, kind of taken aback, like, oh, we didn't really get a chance to, post show.
Good show, high five.
After a while, I started to love that. I was like, oh, it's such a release to not have to wonder, like, okay, are we done? Do we have to, like, it just solve the problem for everybody.
Bye-bye. It's funny though, because but that's somebody you talk to all the time. I don't get to talk to these guys that often, and I'd like to, chum around a little bit. And it's like, okay, thanks, Allison, bye.
It's clockwise. Time.
They say, here's the link. Here's the link to upload your file. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, bye.
Yeah. That's it. But you do know that, I mean, if it's 9 to 9:30, at 9:32, you can plan another event.
That's good. That's actually very helpful.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I don't do certain shows, because they're sort of like an hour-ish.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and you don't know.
If you don't have 2 hours, really, it's like kind of like.
Sometimes you need a hard out,
Yeah, it's true. We're all busy folk.
Now the cat's behind the monitors. This isn't good. If you see me leap up and look at my armpits as I go to get the cat out from behind.
So Allison, I put you introducing yourself.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I sort of combined your plots there.
You'll be right after Len.
So I don't say.
I guess you wouldn't say and then.
Yeah.
I almost made some Hoth cocoa this afternoon.
Tauntaun flavored?
No, thankfully. It's Eileen got a 3-pack of Dagobah green tea, Hoth cocoa, and Darth Vader dark roast.
Yeah.
Like a long time ago. It's probably not good anymore.
Probably. But
I had seen you wrote Frozen Planet of Hoth, and I was like, "Ooh, I should make the Hoth cocoa." Mojam, yes, it is Hat Day. Friday is Hat Day.
Tip of the hat to you.
Optional Hat Day, as Roger is demonstrating.
Yeah,
you don't have to have a hat. Day. It's all good. Roger, you okay?
Yes. Just going over these CS emails, sorry.
Okay. Well, you can do that after.
You read all your CES emails there, Roger?
No,
it's regarding our shows at CES.
Okay.
Do you want us to wait until you're done to do this?
Nope.
No. Okay. I'm kidding. Let's rock. You guys ready?
Yep.
Read my shirt.
Born ready. Here we go.
The Daily Tech News Show is powered by its listeners, not outside organizations. If you get value from the show, consider giving a little back. As little as $1 a month keeps great tech news and analysis coming your way commercial-free. Find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, January 5th, 2018. From DTNS headquarters in Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
And from a beautiful day by the water from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
From the frozen planet of Hoth, DTNS Northeast in Cleveland, I'm Len Peralta.
And from Podfeet headquarters with more felines than necessary, I'm Allison Sheridan.
We are heavy on the felines today. Also joining us without cats, Roger Chang, our producer.
I have no cats.
Sin Gatos is the shirt that Roger wears. Goes about town.
It's actually a pretty good shirt idea.
Yeah.
No one's done that yet.
Put that one in the store, Dave Michael. All right. Let's start with a few tech things you should know.
Sources tell Billboard that Jimmy Iovine will leave Apple in August. Iovine joined Apple when it acquired Beats back in 2014. Iovine's Apple shares conveniently fully vest in August. Probably not a coincidence. Apple Music now has 30 million paid users, which, to put it into perspective, is a little less than half of Spotify's 70 million.
Didn't they say when Apple bought Beats that they were really buying Jimmy Iovine for all of his contacts?
Heard that you can't buy a human being.
I guess so. You can't keep one, I guess. Well, Fitbit invested $6 million into a startup called Sano, which is developing a coin-sized patch to help diabetics track blood sugar levels. As for market interest, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention estimates 100 million Americans are now living with diabetes or prediabetes. Fitbit sold 3.6 million devices in the quarter ending September 30th, down from 5.3 million a year earlier.
That could be a big hit, and going head-to-head with Apple on that, because Apple's supposedly doing their own.
If they both do it, yay, right?
Yeah, no, totally. Absolutely.
I have a friend who got one of the continuous glucose monitors, and she says it's just amazing at how she can control things, because as she sees it plummeting, she can fix it, and still waiting until she feels horrible and then going, okay, now let me check and see what happened.
Yeah. The US FCC released the final text of the order to change the open internet guidelines. This is the net neutrality change that everybody's been talking about. And this is the text that will be published in the Federal Register. So it's not in effect yet. It has to be published in the Federal Register before the rules go into effect. All right, let's get into some more top stories. Kick us off, Allison.
Amazon is rolling out the Alexa mobile accessory kit, which lets Amazon Voice Services work on Bluetooth products like headphones, smartwatches, fitness trackers, other audio devices. It's a lighter version of the AVS device SDK. The kit is rolling out to limited partners with wide availability this summer. Amazon also introduced the Premium Voice Development Kit that lets device makers enable high-quality, far-field voice experiences for either 7-mic circular or 8-mic rectangular array boards.
Yeah, so this is Amazon's next step to stay ahead of Google and the rest of the competition in voice services. Get it in the smaller devices. Get it in the Internet of Things devices.
Right.
They already have that device kit. You know, they talked about it's going to be in microwaves, so you want it in the small stuff too.
It's funny. It's I call them the normals, but I have a lot of people asking me like, what kind of like smart speaker should I buy? And I want to get an Alexa, right? And I'm like, well, it's an Echo. It's, Alexa's the AI and Echo's the hardware, but clearly Amazon understands this and is like, if Alexa can be sort of omnipresent in all sorts of devices, then, the Amazon's own Echo speaker is not so much this thing that has to be pushed forward unless somebody wants it.
Every time I think of this now, I think of Alexa. It's coming from inside the house.
Okay.
I mean, it's everywhere.
I just want to give the blanket apology to everyone whose Amazon Echoes have been set off 3 or 4 times now.
Oh,
But
yeah. Sorry.
we just can't get away from it
the
now.
A
It's
word.
going to get worse before it gets better. I'm just saying.
I do have an explanation of that, Tom. And I don't think I've said it on this show before, but Alexa is a dog and Siri is a cat. If you ask Siri to do something, she looks back and goes, oh, I don't know if I feel like doing it. I might help you. I'm not really sure. And Alexa's sitting over there going, huh? Are you talking to me? Huh? Can I help you? Can I help you? What are you doing?
It's kind of true. I've actually been looking at my Amazon Echo Show with the water running, told it to add something to the shopping list, and the one in the living room answers for some reason. But again, I will now add a further apology for the 2 more times that Allison has now set off your Amazon.
Alexa.
Now stop it. People do not think it's funny. Let me just tell you that right now. And I will forward the emails to you.
Okay, do it. Do that.
All right, moving on. Show of hands. Who has had something in their bathroom or kitchen made by Kohler? Probably a lot of people have raised their hands, right? So bathroom fixture maker Kohler announced Kohler Connect with a K, which allows motion or voice controls of faucets and toilets, including support for Amazon Voice Services. So users can...
It is like a dog.
It's like you could start a shower or warm your toilet seat or adjust lighting from the mirror, fill a bathtub to a very decided depth, all through your voice. Kind of cool. Kohler's Verdana voice lighted mirror will be the first Connect product on the market coming in March. We'll probably see something like this at CES. I originally laughed because I was like, smart toilets. However, Anything that requires me to touch a toilet fewer times in the day, not gonna be mad at that.
I suppose if they were in public restrooms, maybe.
No, even my own. Toilets are gross. I don't want to touch my toilet.
This comes to mind. Our mutual friend Dorothy was talking about putting in a new shower system. She's rebuilding part of her house, and a friend of theirs has this cool electronic thing. It's got all kinds of bells and whistles and things you can do with the shower. And then they said, yeah, but the power was out the other day and we couldn't turn the shower on. So, maybe some stuff doesn't really need this.
Echo, start my warm shower. Tell me when it's 38 degrees Celsius. Wait,
having shared showers with roommates and whoever in the past, the idea of having something that's a shower is very personal experience. You want to sing in there, you want to do your thing, you want it to be a certain temperature. So I can see where this would actually come in handy. I mean, it does just smack a little bit of the smart home that doesn't need to be smart. But if you really want to go all out with a bathroom, it is a personal experience.
Yeah, I think there's a range here. I think some of these things may end up being smart refrigerators where you don't really need them. But especially the mirror, we're going to see a lot of smart beauty products at CES. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I think that's the kind of thing that you might get some people to say, "Oh yeah, no, that's helpful."
Echo, make my mirror make me look thin.
Boom. That too. All right. I'm going to talk a lot about Spectre and Meltdown now. So just settle in. But this is probably the last big collection of announcements for a while. Spectre, if you haven't been paying attention, has two main aspects. And we haven't talked about these aspects on the show before. There's an array bounds attack that tests the bounds of arrays, an array bounds test, and a branch prediction attack. Now, you don't necessarily have to understand what those are, but know that those are two different kinds of attacks that need to be mitigated. Intel has issued guidance for mitigating against the array bounds test in individual apps, as well as issuing a microcode update for its processors that will need operating system support, but combats the branch prediction attack. AMD says it's less susceptible to the branch prediction attack, although it doesn't say it isn't, but it just moves on, and suggests that operating systems can patch to mitigate the array bounds test problem, and recommends that the operating systems can take care of that for AMD processors. ARM has detailed new instructions to patch the array bounds test for its processors and recommends using existing systems that it has in place for invalidating or disabling the branch prediction attack. Apple says it is updating Safari to protect against Spectre attacks on its chips. It doesn't differentiate between the two, so maybe it thinks one of them was already safe. I don't know. Microsoft has modified Edge and IE to guard against the array bounds test and has implemented support for Intel's microcode updates as well. It has a brute force approach for the branch prediction attack. So they've got Intel's microcode if there's a branch prediction attack against Windows, but they also have their own brute force protection if you're using a different non-Intel piece of hardware. Mozilla has patched Firefox, and a Chrome patch will ship by the end of the month. That's Spectre. That's where we sit with the Spectre patches. Here are the fixes for Meltdown. This is simpler. About almost all of them are out for major operating systems and cloud services. Apple confirmed that macOS was already protected and that it has further mitigation efforts for Meltdown on the way. Microsoft notes that third-party antivirus must support dual page tables or its fix can't be implemented. So in a sense, if you have third-party antivirus, you'll need to check to make sure that your third-party antivirus is updated and supporting the fix before you can get the Meltdown fix on Windows, or just don't use third-party, use Defender. Sysadmins need to turn on dual page tables in Windows Server as well, since the performance impact will vary depending on workload. Intel says that performance reductions due to Meltdown mitigation should not be significant. They don't think it will be anywhere near 30%. They say it does depend on workload, but most people won't notice. The fact that it was already there in macOS, they were doing this kernel table isolation already, makes me think they're probably right. And Google says its mitigations have negligible effect on performance as well. So the good news is almost everything is patched, or if it's not patched, there is a foreseeable patch in the future. There still are no in the wild exploits of either of these. And it sounds like the performance hit is not going to be nearly as bad as people feared when we first heard about this earlier this week.
I have a couple of questions.
I probably don't have answers, but shoot.
Well, so Apple has been saying that Mac OS was already patched. My understanding is the patch is 10.13.2. So that would say if you're on High Sierra, you already have the patch. But this would also affect the people who are on Sierra and El Capitan going back.
That's not a question. That's just a really good point. You're right. High Sierra does that kernel table isolation. But if you're not up to date on High Sierra, then you wouldn't have that protection.
Right. And those are supposed to be patched OSs. So, but I mean, my question was going to be, have they patched those older ones? And
Apple says it's got further patches in the works. So probably
maybe
that's one of the things that those further patches will address, would be my guess.
Is that same question valid in Windows world? Do you have to be on Windows 10 to have been getting these new patches?
Well, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to Windows 7 users and all of the various complexities about whether you're actually supported or not. If you're on Windows 8, I would assume that they would have a patch out of cycle, but I honestly haven't checked. So that's a good question too.
Yeah. So don't be too cocky there on everything is awesome, right?
Well, everybody has addressed this and put out patches. You may need to check to find out if your patch is actually there yet. But again, the tendency that I'm steering against is to overreact and say everything is awful. And I'm trying to say everything is not awful. We're getting patches for these things. And in fact, it looks like if the Register hadn't broken this story, the plan had been to introduce all of the patches and all of the fixes on the day they announced the problem. They were trying to keep this problem under wraps.
That's, it's remarkable how much it went from everybody panicked, this is the worst, to, okay, patches are out, everybody good, which, it leads one to believe that the companies had been working on some sort of a group effort for some time. And perhaps they were scooped a little bit by the Register, but they were pretty close to a solution. At least something that, was going to, pacify most people.
So the lesson 2 or 3 days later after this came out is probably not going to be the big performance hits we were worried about. And I believe 2 days ago, we were under the impression that the Spectre piece of this was, oh my God, we need whole new pieces of hardware. And that's no longer the case. That
does not seem to be the case. What seems to be the truth behind that is that to actually fix the Spectre vulnerability, you need to re-architect, and Intel plans to do that in future releases, but you can still mitigate against it. And I know that's a fine line. For most people, it doesn't even matter. They're like, as long as I'm not vulnerable, that's all I care about. And that's what's true. You're not going to be vulnerable if you get these mitigations. But the mitigations basically kind of defend and push the attempts in a different direction rather than actually go and fix the underlying vulnerability. So I guess the difference there is somebody could figure out a way around the mitigation a little easier than they could figure out how to fully create a new vulnerability from scratch.
Sources tell TechCrunch that GoPro is laying off between 200 and 300 people this week, concentrated in the aerial division, which makes the Karma drone. GoPro laid off 100 people in late 2006 and then 270 more in March of last year. And normally I'd say, well, okay, companies sort of ebb and flow. But, GoPro is synonymous with drones. I mean, it was for sure one of the first companies that really got put on the map for drone technology. And just because we're about to go to CES in a couple of days, and we're going to be talking about so much, what's the new cool hot thing? It was only a couple of years ago where drones were, that was the whole thing. And there were companies that GoPro is obviously making hardware, but a lot of companies that were adding drone divisions and ramping up their drone technology. And not that that still isn't, valuable in some sense, but it's really kind of shifted as far as like the new shiny thing that consumers are talking about.
Yeah, I mean, Roger made the point in our pre-show conversation that it seems like drones and quadcopters and UAVs in general have matured as a market, and GoPro getting out of the business seems to be one of the signals of that.
Yeah.
Looks like it.
Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines. You can get it as a podcast on the Amazon Echo, on the Google Home, on the Anchor app, or just as a good old-fashioned podcast at dailytechheadlines.com. So, we're going to CES.
Woohoo.
may regret this. But it's something we always
48
cover.
hours, Tom. 48 hours.
Whether we go or not, we always cover it. And it's always interesting to talk about what you expect to see from the show and then sort of see how the show plays out. It's funny because every year we say, it's the same old thing. TVs, smartphones, and ultra media PCs. And then the next year it's TVs, smartphones, and 3D printers. And, there's always one little thing that slowly changes over the years. This year, it seems like the smart speaker battle that we were kind of talking about earlier, Amazon versus Google and everybody else trying to get into the smart speaker battle, as well as smart home stuff like the Kohler stuff and just AI. Expect everybody to be using AI for everything. TVs and displays, of course, lots of car tech, especially self-driving car tech. Wearables, particularly health and wellness wearables. We're going to see a lot more of that, like the glucose monitor thing we talked about. We'll probably hear a lot about 5G, a lot of augmented reality, maybe some virtual reality, robots, phones, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I've got an overview of all of these different categories and what to expect here, but I thought we'd go around the table and we could start with you, Allison. What are the things you're expecting to see and maybe you're most excited to see too?
I don't cover stuff like the self-driving car stuff, but I am really intrigued to see there's a car called, or I should say a bus called Accessible Ollie. It's a giant bus that's going to be in the lobby, but it's specifically a self-driving vehicle to drive people who can't see around or have other accessibility needs. So I think that's kind of cool. I think I gave you guys some links. There's going to be more attention to accessibility by creating categories for accessibility. So when a vendor puts their stuff up into CS, they say, oh, I've got AI, because everybody's going to put AI. And then they put down, I do drones, but then they can also say there's something about accessibility so people can find them that way. So I'm kind of excited about that. I always like walking past the TV stuff, but the TV stuff's always just crazy talk. I mean, it's fun to go look at, but I don't spend a lot of time on that.
Well, we're going to get an 88-inch 8K OLED television.
Oh, yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of talk about HDR10 and Dolby Vision, and Samsung's going to be over there with HDR10 Plus, and there's advanced HDR, so you'll get a bunch of HDR confusion. But yeah, I mean, maybe some transparent screens will be cool to look at. Other than that, I don't know.
Yeah. But where I get excited, I am excited about the smart home stuff. I think that's really, really interesting, terrifying, interesting. It'd be interesting to hear if they talk about security all in any of that stuff. I'm definitely enjoying that. I'm such a huge fan of VR. I'll be focusing on that, Tom.
Yes. You've never been a skeptic of VR that I can recall because I can't remember before yesterday.
Exactly. So probably not too excited about that. I'm also intrigued by the wearables and health and fitness stuff because, as I think I've said here before, I find it fascinating that half of the stuff that we're inventing right now is designed to make sure we never have to get off the couch. I mean, Sarah doesn't want to go up and fill that bathtub to the perfect height, right? She wants to be able to lay on the couch until it's ready and then, waddle over and do it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Sarah's going to wear a fitness thing to tell her to get up off the couch and go for a run.
Well, what Sarah, I don't mean to speak for you, Sarah, but let's.
But I will.
This is a Sarah without an H, different Sarah altogether.
Totally different Sarah.
The imaginary Sarah. She doesn't want to have to get up off the couch to get to run the bath because she wants to get up off the couch and exercise and have fun, not waste time running the bath.
I don't know. You watch the people in the 1920s; they didn't have to exercise, right?
No,
they're all running around doing everything by hand. Oh, well, there's that.
But I love the idea of lots of companies piling on the smart home thing, even though I know that there will be a lot of smart home solutions that the world doesn't really need. But it's funny that you mentioned baths because I actually don't take them because I have a history of seizures. So I'm not supposed to take a bath when I'm alone because, you could have a seizure and drown. And that is why some of the stuff in the wearables category is really interesting to me because counting how many steps I took to take a walk and what was the elevation that I, reached during a given day. It's that's interesting data, but it's not really interesting in the sense of keeping myself as healthy as possible. What is interesting to me is, the diabetic measurements, the idea that people, women could track their fertility, stuff that a lot of people have to go to the doctor regularly for. And to be able to cut down on that with something that's actually accurate is like, that's not just like CES being flashy. That's like really cool.
Well, and that's the key, right? Is it accurate? Are these blood pressure monitors, these glucose detectors, gluten sensors? We're going to hear all of these kinds of things. Are they good enough that a doctor will and say, yeah, okay, no, that you can use that in a medical situation versus sort of a, well, it's interesting to track, I don't really need to rely on it situation. And that's a big deal. I mean, some of the stuff is going to be real. There's a spoon called the Guyano Spoon 2 for Parkinson's patients, for instance, which corrects for the shake as they bring food to their mouth so that the spoon stays steady. Like that kind of stuff's
nice.
Crazy cool.
I used to design steering mirrors for military electronics that did just that. It was really hard. Yeah,
like they compensated for the shake.
Yeah, they weren't spoon size though. I mean, they're a little bit bigger than that. I do like where you're going with the health stuff that'll actually keep us alive longer. I mean, looking at what Apple's discovered from the Apple Watch, that they've been able to predict AFib. I mean, there's some crazy stuff happening that they didn't quite realize it was going to be able to do. So.
Yeah, and I think we'll see a lot more companies riding on the back of not only Apple Watch, but phones, not just the iPhone, but the Android phones as well, with a lot of add-ons and mods where, there's one out there, I think it's called the V Vital, if I'm remembering right, where you put your finger in and it says it can do blood pressure and glucose monitoring and like 5 different vital statistics for you, like temperature and all of that, just by sticking your finger in it, and it attaches right to your phone.
Well, I mean, they've had those little machines at like the Walgreens by the pharmacy for however many years now, and it's like the idea that you just don't have to be at that place in order to get the same data it's not just like, wow, that's novel, but it's just really convenient. And I think the stuff that I care about the most that's coming out of CES is convenient technology that we'll actually use.
Yeah.
It goes even further than that, Sarah. So you could go to the doctor or to Walgreens and check your blood pressure once a month or whenever you go to buy toilet paper. But my friend Bart had high blood pressure and he decided to fix it and by losing weight and exercising. And so he used his Apple Watch to track it. But what he was able to do was start collecting metrics that all pulled together with he had a home kit to do his blood pressure. He was able to put that together with his exercise, with his calories, showing exactly what he ate and hand a report to the doctor. Yeah. And the doctor was just blown away at all the data he had to make decisions or help Bart make the right decisions.
Now, granted, we'll have to separate the wheat from the chaff, but there's going to be some really interesting health and wellness stuff. And that seems to be where wearables is heading. And it seems to be a more fruitful direction. The smart home stuff really is going to be the battle of Google versus Amazon, whether something is actually smart or whether it's just using the term AI. And we're going to see it in everything. Smart Tupperware, like I said, microwaves. I really think the beauty gadgets are something to keep an eye on because beauty is an exploding category right now. It's got a ton of interest on places like YouTube, and my wife's way into Korean beauty products. And if somebody can come up with the kind of mirror that really captures an audience and isn't like a walled garden where it's like, oh, I have to only buy this one kind of product. I think that could be really interesting.
I also feel like on the subject of staying healthy, Smart Tupperware could tell me more readily when to throw out my leftovers.
Actually, that's a good one, Sarah. I like that.
There's a company that has a scanner. There's a company that has a scanner that's going to be showed off at CES for your food.
Yeah.
It's from Link Square. So you can scan your food and it'll tell you if it's safe or not.
Right. Yeah. Like, is that chicken real? Like, do I really have to throw it out or I just have to like cook it a little bit hotter?
That's so cool.
I like that. I like it. Tom, on the beauty thing, what are you thinking in terms of AI and higher tech stuff for beauty? Like what? Smart mascara? I don't get it.
What I'm thinking is you've got a mirror that says, oh, if you were to use this Innisfree facial mask, it will actually make your face look like this. And, it maybe does a representation or it analyzes your skin and says, oh, well, you need this kind of moisturizer, things like that.
Or something like this type of shading is good for this type of low light atmosphere, but not sunlight.
Totally. Totally.
Oh, that's a good idea. Simulate the club, not the sterile bathroom.
Yeah. Do you want to look good? Or do you want to look crazy on your way to the market at noon?
Do you want to look good in the club? Yeah. Yeah, so we're going to see a lot of cars. Nissan's brain to vehicle we talked about before. Byton has a bunch of the folks from Faraday Future, which went under, the Faraday Future version that went under, working for them. So they're going to have their world premiere at China. There's the Ojo commuter scooter. Lyft's going to be showing off their semi-autonomous cars. There's a tech wallet with a Bluetooth that can sound off a 95 decibel alarm if it's within 200 feet of you in case you misplace it. Neurable is going to show off brain control for virtual reality arcades, so you don't have to touch an arcade stick. Occipital and Mag Days plan to show off new smart glasses that use augmented reality. LG's been talking about their robots for hotels, airports, and supermarkets. Huawei's going to introduce something for the US in their phone line. Everybody's wondering what the Sony Xperia XA2, XA2 Ultra, and Xperia L2 are going to look like. And we're going to get our first Snapdragon-powered Windows machines, some wireless power stuff, bunch of smart city-oriented stuff, gaming accessories. We mentioned Mad Catz coming back. So these are just some of the things to look for at CES. Thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com and facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow. Let's check the mailbag, Sarah.
Normally we get a lot of written emails. However, our email is now AI enabled. So we have a voice message from James from Irvine, who called in with some feedback for us.
Hey, Tom, Sarah, Roger, and friends. Just calling to give you a little bit of feedback. Love the show. That was it.
It doesn't have to be long.
Sweet. Gosh, really nailed it.
Good stuff. Thank you, James from Irvine.
Let's
Hi to me. I'm friends.
If you ever want to give us some feedback and feel like talking rather than writing, all good.
Yeah, do it. Len Peralta, what have you been drawing as we've been talking about smart toilets?
Well, I could not. I saw the smart toilet talk in the feed, and of course, I had to draw the smart toilet. What I'm looking forward the most to CES is, of course, seeing how this connected commode, if you will, will work with the Internet of Toilets, which is what this is called. It's called the Internet of Toilets, and it's there's a lot of things here. There's virtual reality. There's there's the guy with the little headset kind of showing it off, that kind of stuff. So as far as CES goes, that's going to be my on my wish list. I think that's going to be great. And of course, I could not stop but draw some potty humor as well. So.
I like a couple of things about this. Love that he calls his derriere a rump.
Yeah.
That's just funny. And I love the look of the guy who's introducing the toilet. Just the two of them next to each other.
With his microphone, right?
Right. And just kind of smug about the whole thing.
Exactly.
Smart toilet.
Trying to capture that a little bit. So
listen, folks, if you're on the audio podcast and you're like, wait, I need to see this, or if you just want to have it for your own, go check it out at lenperaltastore.com.
And it was originally called the Connected Commode, but I saw during the chat room, I wish I could see, someone said the Internet of Toilets. I thought that was a good joke. So it is now called the Internet of Toilets. So
can't wait.
Good stuff. Allison Sheridan, thank you so much for joining us the Friday before CES. I know you're very busy. So tell folks what you have going on these days.
Well, probably the most fun I've had recently was Rich Straffolino interviewed me for Gestalt IT, or is it Gestalt IT, and the podcast IT Origins. It's an interview about my background in IT, because I did work with an honest job for 35 years. And I kind of talk about the changes I've seen in IT over the years. And I get a chance to rant on some of my philosophies of how you shouldn't think if you're in IT. And he was very patient to let me have my little rants. And it's just a little bit different thing. Doesn't really get into the podcast as much as my former career. So I really enjoyed that. And that is over at gestaltit.com.
Excellent. A different take on Podfeet. I like it.
There you go.
Hey, we're not just doing DTNS from CES. We'll also be live streaming from CES Unveiled, Showstoppers, and Digital Experience in the evenings. So keep an eye out on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Daily Tech News Show, for that Facebook live stream. Once again, that's at facebook.com/Daily Tech News Show.
Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 21:30 UTC at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our email address is dailytechnewsshow.com.
We'll be back on Monday live from unincorporated Clark County at CES 2018. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
I had a moment just now where I had to remind myself that I'm the one that makes that second part happen. I was like, and now the Diamond Club thing happens. I'm like, oh, it doesn't happen if I
I got to do that.
if I don't touch it.
It's funny if too many things are on autopilot and then some one bit flips, you're just like, oh, why did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I read our plug at the end of the show, and at pretty much every show, I'm always like, yeah, okay, oh, this is this. Like, I know it by heart. Could do it with my eyes closed, but still, I just panic.
No, it's funny.
So titles you might like. We have the A name, Please Flush. IoT, the Internet of Toilets.
Cash.
Oh, IoT, Internet of Toilets. That one gets my vote.
That's cute.
A, Who's Wearing You. A, All of the Things. A, Flush My Toilet. 88 inches, 8K OLED HDR TV for the win.
FTW.
Kohler connects the crap. Oh, too many Ks.
Alex is a dog and Siri's a cat.
Alex, see, smart. I like that. Good work, Brad. Who is that? SP Sheridan. Well done.
James Bond 25, Meltdown.
I think they put a bunch of the other ones in there to see how many times we would read them out loud.
Toilets are gross.
You know, that's the thing I have with all this connected bathroom technology. Not one of them addresses the sanitation.
Are you sure? Have you seen all of them?
All right, not all of them. All the ones that I've seen.
If you have good quads and you hover, and then you can just tell
why don't
flush.
you
Do you ever
build
touch
a
the
next
toilet?
generation toilet that cleans itself?
I like
Yeah,
that.
That's the grossest thing about a toilet is
I'm
having
just
to
saying,
clean.
Roger, like we don't know. Like all we've seen is this one smart toilet from Kohler. Maybe it does clean itself. I haven't even looked into the spec.
I don't want any kind of BS UV light that supposedly cleans it. No, I want something that squirts out bleach.
Wait,
comes
you
with
think
an automated
is a
brush.
conspiracy now?
It has to have a physical brush to go around.
Yes.
It's got to be that blue water, so you know that it's clean.
It's got to sting my eyes with bleach so I know it's clean.
I don't want any of this conspiracy from Big Ultraviolet telling me.
Big UV.
You know, that's the only thing. Can you
above.
imagine if it's a self-cleaning toilet? I imagine that's going to come at a pretty high price point.
But
So if
what
anything
price?
goes wrong with your
What price
toilet-
is too high for hygiene? I ask.
Well, if you got multiple bathrooms, that's
I mean,
and you're replacing toilets.
I am with you, Roger. I think self-cleaning toilet, like an automatically cleaning toilet with sensors and connectivity to tell when it needs to be cleaned. That's a big selling point.
Yeah,
When I was a kid, I imagined, because I used to hate public restrooms, I imagined that there would be a system where you could seal the door to the bathroom
hangs
and
out of the
flood the entire room with hot boiling water and bleach and let it just soak, and then it would just like do a little whirlpool and everything would drain back out.
No, nothing would cure my needs quicker than a gas station bathroom. Like, oh, don't need to go anymore. Fine.
Do you have any gloves? I need gloves.
Believe me, it's not just gloves.
Bleach for my eyes.
You know what? I'm just gonna dig a hole next to the gas station here in the ground.
Yeah.
All right. So IoT Internet of Toilets is winning.
Winner.
I like it.
Winner.
I saw that and it made me change the name of the image. So
No, I think that's got to be it.
Clear winner. I didn't get in the yellow light in time, but my favorite IoT device I have is a Wemo switch that's hooked up to a hot water pump that connects to my water heater, so it gives me hot water when I need it. So instead of, I never have to run the faucet anymore.
So
wow, that's cool.
So so that's a great example of, it doesn't have to be convenience where you're like, get my shower warm. That's using a sensor to just know, like, okay, this is when it needs to be hot.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah. So it's a pump that pumps a column of hot water at certain times a day. So at 6:30 in the morning
to do that. Is that how that works?
No, it's not AI.
Okay.
But I've got in the Wemo Switch, we've said from this time to this time, turn on the pump, from this time to this time. So it keeps a column of hot water, because for some reason it was taking like 2 to 3 minutes for the water to get hot.
Wow.
And knowing how much water we were wasting was driving us crazy.
Yeah.
Do you have lots of plumbing, like length of plumbing?
Yeah. It was real far away, but you don't need it's not a recirculating thing. So it's not like a loop. You don't have to replumb. It was like a $200 device.
Have you thought
really
about
cool.
getting the under sink where you replace the water heater and you just have a localized heater?
Yeah,
like
but
they do
this does it for $200. It gets hot water everywhere all the time. I mean, when I want it. You don't have cold water anymore, though.
It's not going to work.
Well, it's lukewarm water, but how often do you need cold water out of a faucet?
Wait, why does it heat your cold water?
So it's because it isn't because there isn't a circle for the hot water line. There's a valve under the farthest sink from the water heater, and that little valve, when the temperature gets too low, that valve opens and pushes the column of hot water into the cold water line.
But sometimes you do need cold water, though.
Yeah, but then where's the relief for the line?
It's not enough to cause a problem. It's not like it forces it too bad. It works. But I mean, if you need cold
Every
water,
once
you
in a while,
run the
just
water.
it spews out of all of the faucets in her house, but it's not a big.
It comes out of the toilet. It's this blue stuff. It stings my eyes.
Self-cleaning.
Yeah.
All
I will
right.
put a link to my article about this because it was one of my favorite things on podfeed.com, of course.
Yeah, put that in our show notes. That'd be great.
It's the best thing ever.
I'm going to log off. I forgot to mention this on the show, but I did mention it on Twitter. The Daily Tech News Show Instant Art Collection version 4.0 is now available in my store. It's the 10 best images from last year that I choose.
Pretend that you were picking the best images all year last year and show it off to your friends.
That's right. Oh, yeah. There's some good ones in there for sure. And it was hard. It was a tough one. I was like, oh, I want to put this one in there. But, there's some good images in there. And there are now 4 instant art collections.
So that's at Len Peralta store too, right?
LenPeraltaStore.com. Yeah, for sure. God, can you imagine we've been doing this for 4 years?
I know, right?
Crazy.
We're in our senior year of high school.
Yeah, it is. We're graduating this year. It's crazy.
Oh, man.
Gotta take our SATs.
And your ACTs. Got to get good scores. Start
Senior activated technology.
Do you still need to take both? I took both because I wanted the better score. I ended up getting exactly the same.
My daughter took both. So, but you got to get those college letters in. It's decision time coming up at the end of this month.
Yeah.
Take our student so he doesn't stay here.
All right, guys. We'll see ya.
Len, are you going to log off the Internet of Toilets?
I am. I'm actually going to log on to the actual toilet. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, well.
All right,
a little bit
TMI,
too much
TMI.
information.
All right. Thanks, Len. Goodbye.
All right. Take care.
Have
Bye.
a great weekend, man.
I went.
I shouldn't have done that, but I couldn't resist. Get it? Yeah.
Well, I'm about to record Security Bits with Bart Bouchatz, where I think we have something to talk about this week.
Oh, well, that is not unusual. You two always have something.
Yeah, this week might be a long one.
Security show? I don't know. Slow news.
Yeah, it seems like it's really dry. You should probably
best of
just
luck.
skip until next week.
Skip. Yeah. Good plan. It is nice to get to do it shortly, a little while after these things break.
Yeah.
Because I'm always thinking, oh, God, I wish I had Bart on today. And boy, you wait a couple of days, you don't sound nearly as dumb.
Well, that's one of the things that was so harrowing about this week was, I did that long explainer about the
Spectre and how it couldn't
what
be fixed.
became known as Meltdown before it was Meltdown. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're coming out with more information. Everything I said yesterday is going to turn out to be wrong. And luckily, I was relying on Peter Bright for my information, and he's a genius. And so it was like, oh, okay, this is all. Now you're seeing the what is it? I keep forgetting what it is. The predictive whatever.
Oh, branch prediction?
No, not
or
branch.
speculative execution.
Speculative execution. I'm seeing that in headlines now. So I'm like, oh, okay. So we lucked into it. That's good.
It's all back to the design philosophy of the chips. They wanted faster speed, so they figured,
But it wasn't irresponsible. It wasn't
No,
like
I'm
we
not
need
saying it
faster
was,
speed. So the security be damned. It was somebody just figured out how to exploit the timing of it.
Well, I'm not saying that it was reckless or anything. I was just
No,
saying
not at all.
that security wasn't the overriding concern when they were developing the chips.
I don't know if that's even fair. I don't think they expected I think they probably they're always thinking about security, but I don't think they expected any kind of vulnerability. And the fact is, anytime someone finds a vulnerability, they find it in a place that nobody else expected it. That's kind of that's the game. And so I'm leading the campaign to stop blaming people for vulnerabilities being found.
Anyone. I think you're jumping the gun on my comment. What I'm saying is, when they designed it, that they did not envision it being a security flaw in the way that it has been.
There you go. That's a better phrasing. Yeah.
I mean, just in the same way that FireWire is a security hole for most laptops or machines that use them because of the way it was designed. It's because it was not. People weren't thinking that.
But that's I guess all I would say is that's every security flaw. Like, nobody thought it was a security flaw when they enabled it, or they wouldn't have built it.
Oh, I mean, that's the things. I mean, that's time. Time will reveal them all.
I'm gonna jam.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Allison.
Bye, Allison.
We'll see you guys on Tuesday.
Happy Friday. See you in
See
Vegas.
you in person.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. I also gave her the invite to the meetup.
Well, everybody has the invite to the meetup, but
everyone has the invite to the meetup or meetup invite.
Yeah.
Thing. I am going to stop the broadcast.
Okay.
So we can do last minute
scheming.
Yes.
All right.
So long,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
See you guys from CES.
See ya from Clark County.